Welcome back, everybody. This week we have yet another very special guest and our first Australian guest for the show. Everybody, welcome to the show, David. It was Hazan, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, in
Thanks for
my
having
head
me,
it
guys.
started mixing up, and then I
Yeah, you got it right, no. Hey man, welcome to the show. Thanks for waking up early for us. We appreciate that. Um,
yeah,
we
we got the Barry Allen like screwing with the timeline thing going on here because
yeah,
you're like
there's
a day ahead of us, and
yeah,
I
you're on a Monday and we're on a Sunday still, so there's some weird stuff happening
Yeah.
right
Not
now.
not much could get me up this early in the morning except comics, apparently.
All right, I mean, yeah, that's it for me too. Not much. I mean, I'm a coffee person. I usually can't function without caffeine. Like I can't even talk to anyone until I get that. So we really appreciate it. But I really do want to talk Nottingham because I read a couple issues, the preview issues that we got today, and I absolutely loved it. But let's do a quick origin story on you. I know you've had some success with Mad Cave. You got some cool things coming along with that. But give us your little origin story here. You know, what got you into comics and how did you
Yeah.
get with Mad Cave?
Yep. So I've only been really reading comics to any serious extent for about 3 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Um, it was one of those things where, like, you know, I was never encouraged to read comics because they were for kids, and
Mm-hmm.
and it was only like by virtue of some colleagues of mine who got sick of me talking about superhero adaptations in movies and TV that they would just like shove things in my hands to shut me up. And that kind of spiraled out of control into me writing comics, really. Um, and so in 2019, I entered Mad Cave's talent search on a whim. Really, I had no serious expectations, and I almost missed the deadline because I was sitting on the script like an idiot, and I won, and it's kind of just all snowballed into this.
And now, did you win with the Nottingham script? Was that something you had pitched or?
No,
Oh,
so
okay.
So, Mad Cave's talent search usually works, and this is the past 3 years of talent searches. So, I don't know how this year's going to work. Don't quote me on it. But how it usually works is they'll ask you for a like 5 to 10 page script set in one of their existing properties because they want to see how well you write, basically for hire.
Okay.
And so I don't know how familiar you guys are with Mad Cave's sort of back catalog of stuff. But I wrote a Battle Cats story. So Battle Cats, for those who don't know, is like a medieval fantasy version of Thundercats.
Yep.
And I wrote a Battle Cats story where I killed the entire cast of the Battle Cats, and apparently that got everybody's attention.
Oh, we know Battle Cats for sure. And that's awesome. So you figured, oh, I have this crazy idea to kill the whole cast, and that'll get me noticed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and clearly it worked.
Yeah, that is awesome. And so the relationship with them has been, working well for the past couple years between you guys, you and Mad Cave.
Absolutely. They really are a pleasure to work with, and I think honestly, working for hire is the best way things can turn out for somebody who is just starting, because there's a lot more hand holding, and there's a lot of things that when you're working creator owned, you have to do for yourself that you don't here. And that just really helps somebody who's new in a vast number of ways. And I'm very thankful to Mad Cave I am. And that relationship continues to be great. So I just...
in the difference between work for hire and creator owned, do you share ownership of Nottingham or anything you create?
No, not for Mad Cave. Mad Cave's always been a closed house, and they gave me a genre, and I was like, all right, well, Nottingham, like this is an idea that uses existing characters anyway. So I was like, you know what, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I pitched them something that was sort of closer to what I thought they had in mind, and they ended up going with this, and yeah, it's been a great experience.
And you said like the differences between, you know, there's a lot of hand holding and they help you out with things. What are some of the things that you feel like as starting out they've kind of guided you or helped you out with, just like editing in general, or
Editing, scheduling,
Mm,
like finding artists, colorists, letterers.
yeah.
It's just like all of those things that can trip you up as a new creator. You just don't have to worry about,
Mm,
because that's someone else's responsibility. It's in someone else's hands, and especially when it comes to cracking the whip with artists. Not to say that you know, any of my collaborators needed that whip cracking, but like when you're working creator owned, like you ultimately have control of all these things, and therefore the burden of all these things. Um, and yeah, just not having to worry about that and just focusing on actually doing the doing is just it's a gift
mm.
basically.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't think we've ever had some insight like that. And so I mean, have you had experience before when you pitched that idea, like writing scripts and stuff like that? Was that something you were familiar with, or you just kind of had a general outline and
2019. So I probably spent about a year just like writing comic scripts, most of which never saw an artist.
okay.
Before before I launched into Nottingham.
Hmm.
Um, and that was just me trying to figure out my voice, and also like conventions of the medium and stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's all practice. You can't just like launch into this thing without ever having written a script. Like because Mad Cave forces you to write a script in order to
Yeah, right.
to enter the race, but also just like um, it's very difficult to just trade on the power of the idea alone. His ideas are a dime a dozen, but like it's all about execution. So
Right. Okay.
Are you saying that there's a little bit of work put into becoming a decent writer?
No way.
I'm saying that it could be seen that way.
Uh,
But sometimes half of Twitter is like doesn't really see it that way. That's all
no.
I'll say on that.
Yeah.
It's the old joke of the overnight success. Like, there's no overnight success. There's 13 years overnight success, or there's 4 years overnight success, but there's not really an overnight success. There's plenty of
Yeah.
years of work put into it.
And
Uh,
and like before comics, I'd always been writing. I just never really found a place that I felt comfortable like taking that next step until I found comics. I was like, okay, this is me to a T, and
mhm.
um, it also helps when you have a day job. Writing comics is like something that you can do much more easily in a piecemeal fashion than you can writing in other mediums.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
It's interesting. And as you said, like as someone who's only been, reading comics for the last few years or so, can you give us some insight into like what is the comic industry like in Australia? Is it would I don't know how much experience you have seeing it in the US, but I know myself going to other countries, I've seen it, differently just in like places like Canada and stuff. What type of stuff is really put out there?
I mean, I can't comment a whole lot, mostly because it's not like I've experienced a whole lot of it,
Hmm.
given the current global
Oh,
circumstances.
yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But things are like we have conventions this year here,
Hmm.
which is going to be great, hopefully, and
Yeah.
hopefully no negative consequences arise as a result.
Right.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to delving into that. Like just kind of been in touch with some stores about doing stuff. So it's more of a we'll see how that goes rather than like me having any fully formed ideas about how the comics industry functions here.
Mhm.
I will say like I have had talks and done some work with one Australian publisher called Gestalt, and it's been fantastic. And I'm in a sci-fi anthology that they're doing that they're putting out sort of hopefully latest this year, early next year. And I assume that'll have some most of the like top Australian talent in there. So we'll see.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
that kind of answers my next question, but when you're getting into comics in Australia, do you have specific Australian properties that maybe we don't know about, or are you mostly getting into the typical DC, Marvel, Image, so on and so forth?
Um, there's not a whole lot of uniquely Australian like at least not commercialized stuff that's been getting put out there. Like there's stuff on Kickstarter. There's a couple of smaller publishing outfits, and like Gestalt publishes some stuff. So they used to publish like Tom Taylor's The Deep. That used to be something they published until that moved over to I think Boom.
Yeah. Yep.
And so yeah, there is some stuff, but not a whole lot that's like this is uniquely like Australian and nobody else knows about it. It's more like on an individual creator basis and how they market it, etc.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so let's talk Nottingham. I mean, that's the book you're here
Sure.
for today. We've read a couple issues. Give us because you said we're using characters that we've seen before that are in old tales. It's a little bit of a twist on the Robin Hood story, I'd say. So give us that whole plot synopsis. So what's going on with that story?
All right. So Nottingham is basically a medieval noir, and we actually follow, rather than Robin Hood, we follow the sheriff of Nottingham, who's like a cop, a detective in medieval Nottinghamshire, and he's hunting a serial killer who's been murdering the area's tax collectors. But the further he delves into this mystery, the more he realizes that he's going to be trapped between a lot of the political forces that are at play at the time, including Hood and the Merry Men, who sort of our Robin Hood and Merry Men analogs. But they're definitely not as jovial as you've seen them in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, that's for sure. After reading a couple issues, there's more of a darker, definitely a darker twist on the characters, right?
Yeah, and like people have been using the word grimdark. I don't particularly like that term. I just think I've just given a different take on the characters, and like it's not that it's like I purposely went for like this is gritty and real. It's just like it's just a product of my own cynicism, you know. And that's the only way I can describe it, really. Like it's not dark for dark's sake. It's dark because this is like medieval England, and that's what I think it would have been like. People would just murder because they can get away with it.
Yeah.
And that's all a function of my own cynicism.
Yeah, and maybe it's just the mask that you use for the Merry Men, but it gives off a very V for Vendetta vibe to it as well.
Yeah, and I think nobody could ever accuse Alan Moore of being, grimdark. He's just Alan Moore, like he's not trading in in anything other than his own the product of his own creativity. There's no like adherence to a certain kind of tone apart from the tone that he wants for the work. Yeah, so the mask kind of that was an intentional reference. That particular one, I basically gave the artist the Guy Fawkes mask, kind of a mask that would have been used at the time, and said, make sure it's smiling because they're the merry men,
Right.
but go nuts. And this is what he came up with. And Shane's pretty awesome. Like I was blown away.
Yeah. That mask definitely leaves an image in your head, and it's like it's a smile, but it's a maniacal smile. It's very creepy. And I think I like the sheriff character, and not to like poke too much at other properties, but he reminds me of like the Hound um, style
Yeah,
character, where he's a brutish, like he sees things on the surface of like, oh, this has to be the way it is. And that's kind of what you're going for, and it almost, not, I don't want to say it's like comical at times, but I just find myself like almost like smirking at some of the, like the decisions and stuff he's making, even though he's like a very serious character, right?
yeah, and I think that's the power of dramatic irony in
Yeah.
that, like, I purposely put the reader in a position of more knowledge than the characters,
Mhm.
which it makes it almost comical when you see
Right.
a character making the wrong decision, even
Yeah.
though there's a whole lot more wrong decisions that can
Yeah. Right.
happen along the
Yeah.
way. Um, yeah,
And I think it's, I don't know, just because how serious he is when with making his decisions too, that it's uh I don't know, it just felt right. And I think the where you go from like issue 1 to 2, not to spoil too much, but you say it is more of a noir, and you definitely feel that in the second issue, where they're like interrogating suspects, right? You almost take us to like a police interrogation scene, right? Where like they have suspects and they have to interrogate them.
yeah.
Um, so that's a
I
little
think
more
we,
change in the pace, right?
yeah, I think we kind of, at least in this first 5 issues, we kind of bounce between like the crime noir side of things and the detective noir side of things,
Hmm.
and yeah, we just keep ping ponging between the two, and hopefully that produces a satisfying result. Because I didn't want to go too far in either direction, because if you go too far in one direction, you kind of lose the like tension in all the like other characters that are fun and interesting too. And
Right.
if you go too far in the other way, you kind of lose a certain dramatic tension and attachment to the sheriff. So it
Mm.
was a lot about finding a balance between like those two subgenres, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I see it almost like, but when you talk about the characters, it's really hard to pick one to root for. Really, I mean, obviously, one set of characters is murdering people, but when you find out the layers of like, okay, maybe some of the, higher ups are involved, some of the mid-level people that have families are involved, or trying to just keep themselves out of it by helping out. It's really hard to pick a side between, because like the classic Robin
Yeah,
Hood story, you're like, oh, I'm always rooting for Robin Hood. Like it's not so mixed or blurred lines, I guess, right?
yeah. Um, and people are complaining, honestly, that they
Uh,
can't find a character to root for. I'm like, that's the point, guys. Like I'm
it's
not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. That's not my job as a writer to tell you how to feel. My
right.
job is to like reflect the world, and your job is to find a way to feel from that. Like
Hmm.
that's that. Yeah. I've never understood that criticism.
Hmm.
And I guess like with with a book, well, with a book series like say Game of Thrones, for instance, where you like there's still people to root for, and I'm like, that's not necessarily like where I wanted to go with that.
Right.
You know, like I didn't want to have, you know, a Jon Snow or an Arya Stark where like this is clearly a person to like hitch your wagon to. I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Right.
no,
Okay. And yeah, I mean,
make
two
up your own
issues in,
minds.
right? And 2 issues in, I think you could get a sense of that. So, is the first issue out now, or is that coming up?
So yeah, the first 2 issues are out. So and I really should have had this info up because that would have been extremely helpful. If give me one moment, I will figure it out.
Yeah, because I didn't want to spoil too much before they had come out.
Well, if I remember correctly, you sold out at Diamond for issue 1, correct?
Yeah. So issue 1's first printing came out on the 11th of March or 10th of March, and that completely sold out. The second printing, which is also sold out at Diamond of issue 1, comes out next week, Wednesday, so the 28th. Issue 2 came out on the 7th of April, so that's a couple of weeks ago. That first printing has sold out, and the second printing comes out on the 12th of May. And I'm not sure how that's doing. So get your orders in if anyone who's listening, if you can, get an order in. Issue 3 first printing also comes out on the 12th of May, and then the third printing of issue 1 comes out on the 19th of May.
Okay. Wow.
So I mean, if you're on the third printing of issue 1, let me say, whoever's criticizing, ignore them because money talks, and you've won.
I'm not complaining about the critiques. I'm just genuinely curious where some people are coming from.
Right.
It's like,
right.
When I said noir, what did you expect?
Yeah. Right. right. It's I mean, man, congrats on that, and it's definitely, you know, well deserved reading that first issue. That's so I mean, it's so awesome to see like indie comics doing well and people, you know, investing in it too. That's got to be huge. So congrats on that.
It was equally surprising and terrifying to find out.
You're like, oh shit, people are reading this. Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like we completely destroyed a bunch of Mad Cave's records as well in terms of sales. So we're all very, very happy and excited. So
is there like?
I think it's safe to say that we're going to see some more books from you in the future. I know you can't talk about them, but there will be more books with David's name on them.
Yeah. So vaguely working on some more stuff at Mad Cave and waiting to hear back about some other stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, so I mean, you're definitely going to be one of those dudes at the conventions with a line of people to sign their first, second, and third printings of issue number 1, right? They're going to have them all ready for you to sign.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. So where could we direct our viewers, listeners, if they want to follow the stuff that you're doing? Keep them up to...
The best place to find me is Twitter at David T Hazan. That's the letter T and Hazan for anybody who does not have the patience to read.
Yep.
No, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for people, and my website at www.davidhazan.com. There's a little like free 4-page comic up there as well. Hoping to put up some more stuff sort of towards the end of the year. I'm just trying to get over the hump of like having moved into state and several like big day job and also comics deadlines so that I can make more free stuff. Apparently,
yeah. Awesome.
I know all about that. So yeah, everybody, you can find links to everything that David just said, including his Comixology page in the show notes down below. So make sure to check the book out. As Mike and I both said, it's awesome. With those first 2 issues, and I'll tell you, David, we get review copies pretty often, and it's rare that I go back and buy them
Yeah,
because I like them so much. So
right.
that's the best compliment I can give you for this book. It was really great.
That's a resounding endorsement. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, David. We wish you the best of luck, and we'd love to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Some more issues rolling. So
Will do.